The cartoon dog, who used to host a game show where real kids launched rockets and built catapults, is now sat behind a podcast mic with a content creator mug, interviewing the CEO of an AI education company to barely a couple of thousand views. And the mad thing is, this isn't his first failed comeback. But the less said about Team Hamster, the better. Anyway, it's a hell of a fall from grace from a show that used to get 1.5 million viewers at its peak. It was also literally a part of people's childhoods. I always looked forward to watching Fetch after coming home from elementary school. I touched on Ruff in my PBS Kids video, but a lot of you asked for the deep dive. So here we are. Ruff Ruffman has a special place in the heart of the American millennial, just like its contemporaries, such as the Electric Company, Design Squad, Maya and Miguel. But unlike them, Ruff Ruffman is still going. So, out of respect for that golden era of kids telly, I actually watched the content creator episodes. And honestly, the biggest problem is that Ruff is boring now. Ruff was neurotic, he was sarcastic, he'd panic and say stupid things, and the kids would roast him for it. The new Ruff opens with,
Hey! Ruff Ruffman here, host of Fetch, the best game show of all time.
and then does a little dance, and then just asks polite questions for like 10 minutes. He asks Amanda Bickerstaff,
So, you work in AI literacy. This is excellent. Please explain what that is.
that's the level of probing we're at. Please explain what that is. And she gives this long answer about doctors and note takers, and Ruff just goes, hit subscribe for more deep dives on American TV from a British point of view. Thank you, back to the video.
All right.
The dog, who used to wind kids up and cause chaos, is now nodding along to corporate talking points. They took everything sharp about him and sanded it off, and the view counts prove it. The content creator episodes where Ruff interviews someone with their own following, like Dave Jorgensen, might get a few thousand views because people are clicking for the guests. The episodes where Ruff himself is the draw, those are scraping past 800, barely 900 views. Under 1,000. The cartoon dog, that used to be the reason that millions of kids tuned in, is now the least interesting thing on his own channel. So, how did we get here? Part 1. What Fetch actually was. I should say up front, I never watched Fetch with Ruff Ruffman when I was a kid. I'm from the UK and, well, we simply never got it here. It just never aired. Not on CBBC, not on CITV, not anywhere. No UK channel ever picked it up. The closest things we had were shows like Trapped and Raven, which was a bloke in a feathered cloak sending children on warrior quests in the Scottish Highlands. The British powers that be probably thought that Ruff was too American, too location dependent, too tied to PBS funding to make sense anywhere else. Anyway, Fetch ran on PBS Kids Go from 2006 to 2010. 5 seasons, 100 episodes. The premise sounds like someone made it up in the pub. An animated golden retriever hosts a game show from his owner's garage, sends real kids aged 10 to 14 out on challenges they know nothing about until they arrive. NASA Space Camp, Penn and Teller Stage, Marine Biology Labs. And then Ruff reacts to what they actually did. 6 kids per season, points across 20 episodes, 1 grand champion at the end. Someone on Reddit described it as just Taskmaster but for kids, and honestly, that's about right. And here's the thing that probably blew my mind. They'd film the kids doing the challenges over the summer, then they'd send the footage to Jim Conroy in New York, reacting to the specific things each kid said and did. Then an animation studio in Vancouver would animate Ruff around the voice work. So, when Ruff takes the mickey out of a kid's surprised face or loses it because someone's catapult went sideways, that's not scripted. He's genuinely responding to real footage. And nobody else was doing that. Nobody's done it since, either. Common Sense Media called it a truly original series, and honestly, I can't think of what you'd even compare it to. The show also treated kids like actual people, which you'd think would be standard, but apparently most children's telly can't manage it. One IMDb reviewer put it well. Children are being treated like adults, despite being taught 3rd grade knowledge. Ruff was funny because he was a mess, and the kids were funny because they were real kids being themselves, rather than tiny actors reciting lines off a script. Let me know in the comments, what are your memories of Ruff Ruffman? Did you grow up with it on PBS, or are you, like me, discovering it for the first time? Let me know in that comment section below. And then it all got cancelled because PBS ran out of money. It's sad because auditions for a 6th season had already taken place. Over 3,000 kids applied. And then that was it. Done. 2010 and Ruff is finished. One woman loved the show so much that they actually wrote a personal essay about what the show meant to them. In her words, "I'm in my living room, a bowl of Fruit Loop cereal in my lap, and the sun is slowly rising. I woke up a bit earlier than I had to so that I could watch my favourite show." She even said most of her love of learning came from these shows. And she's not even unusual. I found 3 separate petitions to bring OG Ruff back. Get Fetch with Ruff Ruffman back on air. Bring back Fetch with Ruff Ruffman. Rebooting Fetch with Ruff Ruffman for college students. The show's been off the air for 15 years, and people are still properly gutted about it. Part 2. The slow shrinking of Ruff Ruffman. So, if the fans never moved on, what happened to the actual character? Well, he didn't disappear, he just got smaller. Yes, every time they brought him back, they shaved a little bit off. In 2017, GBH made the Ruff Ruffman show, 20 short animated videos aimed at 4 to 8 year olds, where Ruff answers science questions from kids who sent him videos. But it didn't hit the same. The competition was gone, the live action adventures were gone, the storylines were gone. Basically, just Ruff answering questions, which is pleasant enough, but you wouldn't confuse it with Fetch. But worse was still very much to come. In 2020, they spun off the hamster characters into an engineering series called Team Hamster, which has 1.3 out of 10 on IMDb. No, you didn't miss here. I said 1.3. And the show made so little impact, there was only one, yes, one user review. And it's pretty brutal. Titled Worst PBS Kids Spin-Off Ever, the review says the show completely lacks the charm the original Ruff Ruffman game show and Humble Media Genius spin-off had. But I think that's just what you get when you strip the parts of a show and sell them separately. Smash that like button if you want me to do a deep dive into Team Hamster, because I'm thinking this may be the worst show in PBS history. In 2022, Jim Conroy did 6 weeks of TikTok challenges called Fetch Talk, which was quite charming, except it was literally filmed with paper cutouts on popsicle sticks from his house. A show that used to send kids to NASA was now being made with popsicle sticks in a bloke's kitchen. Holy fall off. Then there's Ruff Ruffman Humble Media Genius. First season launched in November 2014. 13 short videos about internet safety, all perfectly harmless. But then in March 2024, season 2 dropped. And this is where I start to have problems. Season 2 is funded by Microsoft, and it's 5 shorts about, you guessed it, AI. Ruff explores AI art generators, AI poetry, algorithms, voice assistants, robots. There's a new character called Lupine, a blue cat voiced by someone called Janine Brown, who replaces Blossom and Chet from the original show. One person on IMDb gave it 9 out of 10, but noted it definitely tones down some of the black comedy, which is a polite way of saying that they filed off everything that made the character interesting. And look, I've watched all 5 of them, and there are moments where you can hear the ghost of old Ruff desperately trying to get out. In the AI art one, Lupine keeps getting the descriptions wrong and turns Ruff into an orange, then a circle, then a squid, then a rabbit, and Ruff loses it.
I'm not an orange, I'm not a circle, I'm not a squid, and I'm not a rabbit. I'm an avocado-shaped orange dog.
To me, that's funny. That's Ruff being Ruff. In the voice assistant one, Ruff asks where to go on holiday, and the AI suggests the city garbage dump because it has, and I quote,
lots of broken records covered in apple peels and leftover French fries.
But then the lesson kicks in.
People have programmed it to take in lots of different information and give new answers based on that information.
You can feel the whole personality just drain out of it. The poem one has Ruff visibly moved at his own AI-generated poetry.
Oh, Ruff, statues of you will never crumble. You're a media genius and oh, so humble.
Which is cute. But then you realize that the lesson is just teaching kids that they should use AI to be creative, and that's just a bit sad.
You just have to come up with good instructions so that the AI has the information it needs to give you helpful answers.
Overall though, these new Ruff shorts are educational content with occasional flashes of character, whereas the old show was character with education baked in. Unfortunately for the new Ruff, they got it completely the wrong way round. And then, in October 2025, they made Ruff Ruffman Content Creator, where Ruff interviews real people about digital literacy. One of the people he interviewed was Shreya Viswanathan, a contestant from season 5, now an adult, which is a nice touch, and honestly, it's a good episode. Having said that, it's hard not to look at a character who used to send kids rappelling down cliffs and think, mate, you're basically doing LinkedIn content now. Part 3. The trust problem. Here's what actually bothers me about the content creator stuff, and I think it's worth spending a minute on. Take the episode with the founder and CEO of AI for Education. It's framed as this fun, breezy chat about using AI safely and ethically. She says,
AI literacy is a top #1 skill on LinkedIn right now.
And she also adds that
there's going to be an expectation very quickly, especially in careers, that you're able to understand how to use AI in meaningful ways for your work.
That's a CEO telling children that they need her products to get a job. And Ruff, he doesn't question any of it. He's already accepted the premise for them. Where is the curious, inquisitive dog from your childhood? The CEO does mention risks. Data centers damaging water systems, copyrighted material, climate impact. And to her credit, that's more honest than most people in her position. But then she says,
some systems that are being developed have more of a commitment to ethics than others.
And Ruff, he just leaves it hanging. Which system? Whose ethics? Who decides? Ruff, he doesn't care. He doesn't ask. And right at the end, she says,
if we over-rely too much on technology of any type, it means that our cognitive work and our cognitive understanding is going to decline. And so that just is how our brains work, right?
Ruff just goes,
Right.
which is all he ever seems to say to anything. Ruff means something to the millennials and Gen Zers who grew up with him. Millions of people trust this guy. So, when he sits across from a CEO whose entire business is selling AI tools to schools and just nods along, kids here, Ruff reckons this is good. And the company gets to borrow all of that trust without earning any of it. The interview doesn't ask hard questions. It can't really, it's a kid's show. But that's exactly the problem. You're teaching children that powerful tech companies don't need to be challenged. And that's a pretty grim outcome for a character who is literally built to get kids thinking for themselves. And it's the same problem across the board. In another episode, Ruff asks a guest whether it's okay to use AI chatbots as a therapist. She gives this really thoughtful answer about how if someone's relying on ChatGPT for therapy, then
it's really important to have people in your life that you can talk to, and then also journal about it. Your own thoughts, we're very intelligent, and sometimes we need to hear our own thoughts and write it down.
That's a genuinely important thing to say to kids. And Ruff just goes,
Oh my goodness, this is fantastic.
and wraps the episodes.
Cyber Farida, thanks for being on the show.
Dude is honestly useless as an interviewer. Someone hands him something worth exploring and he just moves on. The weird thing is, there was no backlash to this. I looked online for a response to these new videos and I found nothing. Ruff Ruffman fans either shrugged or just didn't even notice these episodes had even come out. That's how far Ruff Ruffman has fallen. Bro isn't under the radar, bro isn't even on the radar anymore. Part 4. What could have been? 2026 Ruff Ruffman isn't absolutely terrible, he's more just meh. Those AI shorts, for example, they're not awful. One of them is literally a song where Ruff sings about why YouTube recommended him a rhinoceros video. And it's catchy and it explains the concept fine.
So what I want to know is how does it know that I like rhinos?
But they picked the narrowest possible lane for a character whose whole thing was doing everything. Ruff could send kids anywhere to do anything. That was the entire point. Look at what Mark Rober's doing. STEM challenge videos, and his CrunchLab subscription box for kids age 8 to 12 makes enough money to fund a free classroom curriculum. That's the same age group as Fetch. Same subject matter. And YouTube is where kids actually are now. Imagine a modernized version of Fetch on YouTube. Short challenge segments, season-long competition, Jim Conroy still voicing Ruff, real kids doing real things. Nobody else is making that show. And competition formats for kids obviously still work. Fox launched LEGO Masters Jr. in 2025. MasterChef Junior ran for 9 seasons. You could do it as a podcast. You could do it as a climate science show. You could do Ruff Ruffman build kits. Any of these would have let Ruff be Ruff. But instead, they sat him behind a desk and had him explain chatbots. It's like having a Ferrari and using it for a Tesco run. Part 5. But who's going to pay for it? And this is where it all falls apart. Because the answer to why didn't they do any of that is money. PBS is skint. I covered this in my PBS Kids video, but the short version is they lost all of their federal funding in 2025, and the head of PBS Kids has said she doesn't have a single show that she can launch by 2027. Live action with real children costs a fortune. Child labor regulations, location shoots, insurance, all of it. Animation is cheaper. Short-form digital content is cheapest of all. So, when Microsoft offers to fund some 3-minute AI explainers, you take the money. And look, I get it. Bill Shribman, the producer behind the humble Media Genius stuff, is clearly a serious person doing serious work. After all, he has over 100 million views across the franchise. But those numbers are almost entirely from the older shorts. That 100 million isn't becoming 200 million anytime soon. And there's a world of difference between something a librarian recommends and something a kid truly falls in love with. Fetch used to be both. The new stuff is only the first one. The End of Ruff Ruffman? Let me put this really, really simply. The original show made kids want to go outside and build stuff and mess around with science. The new stuff has Ruff singing about rhinoceros recommendation algorithms and celebrating his own AI-generated poetry. I mean, come on. Look, I wasn't lucky enough to grow up with Fetch as a kid. I'm a Brit who grew up with Raven and Trapped and horrible histories. But even from the outside, I can tell what this show meant to people. The 2026 version of Ruff Ruffman isn't working anymore. I think when it comes to this former PBS legend, it's time to let a sleeping dog lie. Thank you so much for my channel members who make videos like this possible. If you want to join them and help support the channel, please consider hitting that join button below. I've been Snipe Snap, here's my cat Leroy. We'll see you soon. Snipe, Snap, out.